Hi everyone, I'm back with part 3 of your motion topic. Now in this topic of motion, we are going to talk about the topics. Topics to be covered in this are direction and speed with direction, which we call it as a velocity, which is very well known name. And next thing is rate of change of speed. We are going to talk about these 3 topics in this particular video. Now let us go with this speed. Now if a body travels some distance, for example, your friend is traveling 10 kilometers in 5 minutes, and if you are able to travel that 10 kilometers in 2 minutes, obviously you say that you are fast because you are covering some distance in a very less time when compared with your friend. Now how do you compare that you are fast or slow? You can compare yourself that you are fast or slow that by calculating your distance with the time you are taking to cover that distance. So the definition for speed is nothing but the distance covered by the object with respect to the time is called as distance. Now distance traveled by the body in a unit time is called as speed. Now its formula is speed is equals to distance by time. So how much distance did you travel and how much time if you are calculating, then we say that it is speed. Okay, now let us go. The way of representing it is, how do you represent it? With symbol V is nothing but speed, S is nothing but distance, T is nothing but time, right? Now this is how you represent it. Right. So next, the SI unit of speed. Distance is measured in meters, time is measured in second. So you will represent it meter s power minus 1. And for example, if you are talking about average speed, see for example, if you are traveling some distances, like you are taking 1 minute to travel 10 kilometers, another 6 minutes to travel another 10 kilometers. Sorry, if you take that much of time, like if you take, see the time is different, like so then what you will find it out is you can calculate like the distance 1 plus distance 2 plus distance 3 so on distance n by the total time. Let us take t1 plus t2 plus t3 plus so on tn. So this is nothing but called as average speed. So finding out average speed is nothing but summing up all the distances with the sum of time, the total time. So total time taken to complete your journey from the starting to the ending is called as average speed. Now these are the 2 things which we have learned in this. One is speed, distance by time. Another one is average speed, which is total distance by total time. Hope this is helpful. Let us get into one more thing. Next thing which you are going to learn over here is speed with direction. The other name of speed with direction is nothing but velocity. Velocity can be represented in this form. Velocity can be represented like the rate of motion. Velocity can be represented like displacement per unit time. That means how much displacement did you move with respect to the time. If you are checking out, that means you are trying to find out velocity. Well, displacement is a vector quantity. So V bar, that means velocity is represented with V bar. V bar is going to be equal to S bar. Displacement is represented with S bar by time taken is nothing but called as velocity. Velocity of a body. So velocity of a body is nothing but displacement by time. That is called as velocity. Now velocity is nothing but it has a specific direction, because displacement is going to be having a direction. So velocity is also going to be automatically said to be a vector quantity, and it also has a direction. Now this is what we call it as a speed with direction. right? The other name of speed with direction is nothing but we call it as a velocity. Difference between speed and velocity is nothing but speed is distance by time, whereas velocity is displacement by time. Now we are talking about velocity. Now let us talk about average velocity. If you try to find out total displacement like S1 bar, we call it like this. You take it like S1 bar plus S2 bar plus S3 bar plus so on Sn bar by T1 plus T2 plus T3 plus so on Tn. So total displacement by total time is nothing but called as average velocity. You also have the other way of representing average velocity, which you have anywhere you have two velocities. One is initially with what velocity did you start, and after some time, at some time if I ask you what is your velocity, at that time your velocity is also said to be your final velocity. So initial velocity plus final velocity by 2 is nothing but you are adding up those two, so u plus v, that means sum of the two velocities by the total velocities is going to give you average velocity. So u plus v, initial velocity plus final velocity, by there are two velocities, so by 2 is also going to give you average velocity. There are two formulas for average velocity. One is total displacement by time, another one is total velocities by time. See how many velocities do you have? Two velocities. Initially at what velocity you are starting, which is called as initial velocity, which is represented with u, and finally at what velocity you are coming up with, that is called as final velocity, which is represented with v. Right? Now this is how you represent it. Now let us talk about the SI unit of this. SI unit is nothing but v bar is equals to displacement by time. So displacement is represented with m, time is represented with meter per second. So m s power minus 1 is the SI unit of your speed with direction. That means velocity. Right? Now let me go with the rate of change of velocity. Rate of change of velocity. Rate of change of velocity is nothing but how much change in velocity is happening. Like for example, change in velocity, how do you calculate? You calculate it like the final velocity minus initial velocity. Initially you are starting with some velocity, let us take it v, and finally when you are ending up your journey, you are at some time you are at some velocity. Let us take it as v. So we will take final velocity and initial velocity. When you are taking these two velocities, when you subtract those two velocities, when you subtract like final minus initial, whenever you do it, you want to find the change in velocity, then you will subtract from the final velocity and initial velocity. If you subtract it, you are going to get the change in velocity. Now that is nothing but we call it as rate of change of velocity. The other name of rate of change of velocity is nothing but acceleration. We call it as acceleration. Right? We call it as acceleration, and acceleration is nothing but change in velocity, that is v minus u by t. So this is how you represent it. V minus u is going to give you again a velocity which is called as change in velocity, which I am going to represent it with delta v. Now this is delta v by t. It is a vector quantity. This is a bar. So a is also a vector quantity. So a is nothing but the symbol of acceleration. Acceleration is nothing but is the change in velocity of a body per unit time. That means change in velocity by time is nothing but called as acceleration. Right? During uniform motion, a body in a straight line with the velocity remains constant. When it is a uniform motion, that body will not have any change in velocity. That means its change in velocity is 0. Therefore, its acceleration is also 0. When coming to non-uniform motion, you have a change in position and you have a different velocities at different times. In this case, you have a chance like the velocity changes with time. In this case, the change in velocity at any time interval is not 0. So if it is not 0, then you will have some change in velocity. When you have some change in velocity, you have a chance of having a positive velocity or else a negative velocity. If you are reducing your speed, then you are going to get into negative velocity. If you are increasing your speed, that means change in speed of direction, then you are said to be having a positive velocity. Now, the formula is v minus u by t, and the unit of this is going to be velocity is meter per second, time is by second, so meter s power minus 2 is your acceleration. Acceleration SI unit is meter per second square. Meter per second square. This is the SI unit. Right? We have two different types of accelerations. One is uniform acceleration, another one is non-uniform acceleration. When you are coming to uniform acceleration, equal interval of time is uniform acceleration. If the change in velocity is happening in equal interval of time, then it is called as uniform acceleration. If the change in velocity is happening in unequal interval of time, then it is called as non-uniform acceleration. Unequal interval of time, non-uniform motion, non-uniform acceleration. Equal interval of time, it is uniform acceleration. Right? Hope this is helpful. Let us meet in the next part. Until then, bye.